man who needs no introduction, integrity partner, the leader of FFL Northwest, the #1 all-time producer, my main man, Matt Smith. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you
You
so
hear me loud and
much.
clear?
What's that?
You hear me loud and clear?
Yes, sir.
Good.
How was your Father's Day?
It was great. Yeah, wonderful. It's got 2 daughters and couldn't ask for better children. So it was a good time.
God bless you. That's great. So it's an honor because I think anybody that started here, really, you're kind of like the soundtrack of their training. I know I've told you back when I started, I was working in restaurants. I was driving to work early in the morning and I would just watch podcasts or YouTube videos of you. And now it's really exploded. So I want to thank you for that. I wanted to start here, kind of going back to FFL when it began, 2013. And a little bit of kind of the history, so then we can transition into now where we are, just to kind of give a little bit of respect for new agents as to what we have our hands on now. So talk about some of the things you guys went through and some of the adversities you guys overcame.
Yeah, for sure. Again, thanks for having me on, Rob and Steve. I appreciate you guys are crushing it and always fun to watch and tremendous leadership and great job by both of you guys. As far as early on with FFL, I mean, just think of insurance as, one carrier. We had Americo. And even at that time, Americo's underwriting was a little bit different. So it's not quite as lenient or forgiving as it would be now. There was no instant decision. As far as leads, there was no internet leads. There was no second chance leads. So if you were going to try to hire someone, you'd have to do mail drops and wait like four weeks to try to get leads back. So it made it pretty difficult to hire and scale on a big level because people that are coming into this business generally need to make money now. So it's, just is a different time frame. Even though it's gone by quickly, it feels like yesterday. At the same time, but it's changed so much and evolved where you can get so much traction with all the system and tools. When we had no CRM, now you got a full CRM. You just have everything at your fingertips. And you were talking, Steve, about the tremendous amount of information that is out there for an agent that's starting. Sometimes if you seek it, you might get confused on where to follow or what to listen to. But the good news is I'd rather have more content to follow than less. And now really you don't have an excuse on why you shouldn't win, here with FFL. And I think a lot of times, and we'll get into this throughout this call, but a lot of times for people that are new on this call or whatnot, it just starts with determining your goals. It starts with determining your goals and really starting to shift your identity. So the more that you can get on these calls and the more that you can increase your activity and the more that you can surround yourself by great people in business and in life, I think that starts to shift identity and get you going to another level. So yeah, in the beginning, there was lawsuits. It was, I don't know. We didn't focus on the negativity though. The one thing about Sean is he's always been a tremendous leader. So whether it's through COVID or a lawsuit or whatever, we were never really focused on any of the negativity. We were always focused on the task at hand and what needed to be done. And we just put work ethic behind it, and had a disciplined schedule, and the rest is history. So,
yeah. Amen. So now kind of knowing where we came from and now knowing what you know and where we are and integrity and all the amazing things that we have at our disposal, how would you attack this business now, starting kind of knowing what you know from a personal production perspective and then from a building perspective?
Yeah, for sure. I think for everybody on the call, I'll do this 2 ways, but everybody's going to have their own different goals and ambition level and what they want out of this business. But I think one of the things that, I've been thinking about lately, and I think this comes to all of us, is our subconscious thoughts, Steve, are 95% of what we do. So if we know that and we can start to be a little more intentional with what we're thinking about, And just think about this too. The habits that we follow when we're not thinking are literally the choices we make when we are thinking. So the reason I'm bringing up this stuff is if we're going to go back to day one, is I start to think about, okay, the first thing that I would do is I would start to acknowledge what I want out of this business. So in order to acknowledge what you want out of this business, the best thing to do is have true goals with it. And true goals means things that I don't think a goal is a goal until you actually write it down. So true goals that you write down and then share with some accountability partners. So once you have that, Steve, we can start to reverse engineer and say, okay, if the goal is just maybe money and time, is the goal to have an agency and build and perform? Steve, we've talked about this a lot, but there'll be a time for you to scale down your personal production and increase the growth of your company. It's just a natural state. And I think anybody on this call, the one thing I would say is talking about starting from the beginning is the sales is easy money. It's instant gratification. It's very addictive, right? And it's easy. To stay consistent on the hiring side, it takes a lot more discipline, in my opinion, just because you never know when you're going to catch a group coming on board to your team, or you're going to catch that right person. And you could hire for 120 days sometimes and not really have a lot of weight behind it. Or you could hire in 20 days and have, an all-star come in your business like Rob Richmond or Stephanie or somebody like that. So you just never know. Hiring's not that direct. You're not going to get a direct deposit from hiring. So I think you just need to reverse engineer and say, acknowledge what you want out of the business. And then when you start to acknowledge what you want, the second thing you need to start doing is tracking all your results. I'm big into that. I think from a personal production standpoint, you should be tracking the leads that you purchase. So reverse engineer everything. What's your goal for this week? We'll just talk about weekly goals. What's your goal from this week? A minimum of $10,000, we'll say, or whatever the number that is your number you want. So what is your goal for this week that you want to put up? There's your goal. How many leads did you purchase? How many leads did you get in your hands? Then we start to talk about how many dials, how many sets, how many sits, how many door knocks, how many referrals, how many apps, how many appointments. And when we start to track all this, it creates another level of accountability. And what people don't realize is, like, I'll use golf as an example. The number one golfer in the world makes 5 times more than the number 10 golfer in the world. So literally, when you think of this, they're about as far as stats are concerned, or stroke play or whatever, they're about 2.7% better. The number one golfer is about 2.7% better, Steve, than the number 10. So for you, Steve, you've been the number one producer at FFL. And the truth is, you're probably 2.7 better. Is probably very similar, right, as our top 10 guy. And the gap, it's not as big. Like, people look at personal production or a large agency like this is a massive gap and this huge overhaul that you have to make. And the truth of the matter is, if you set goals, write them down, track your activity, track your results, talk to your mentors, have some people in your business to run things by, have an accountability partner. One of the things that we probably don't talk about enough is, one of your secret weapons is certainly Margot, right? Because it's like, if you didn't have your supportive spouse that wasn't asking you what time you need to get home after, how late you're going to be home tonight, Steve, if you have that kind of dynamic going on, then you need to have some good communication with your spouse, significant partner, because there's a lot of things that hold us back that are so much more outside of this business, and we don't really look at it or think about it. But a lot of times there's a lot of moving parts, because if I could give everybody on this call one superpower, it would simply just be belief. And because if you knew without a shadow of a doubt that you were going to obtain your goals, you would do everything it takes to do so. And the true thing too about goals, which is kind of interesting, I think about all the time, is, do you really want to give up whatever you are right now, like give up the person that you are completely to get to where you want to be? If we were all being honest with ourselves on this call, I think for the most of us on this call are not willing to give up our current, how we feel about ourselves, and just get rid of that person in order to achieve the true results that we want out of life. Most people want to stay within that realm of comfort, and they don't want to change their complete identity in order to achieve their goals. So I think it's important to really be honest with yourself and stop kidding yourself and saying, okay, well, what am I willing to do? And if the answer is I'm willing to do whatever it takes, then you've got to start putting some activity and action behind that scenario, and stop making excuses for yourself on why things aren't happening the way they should be. And a lot of times, listen, you don't have to be a great closer, is the good news on sales for this. You can simply get a multitude of leads and outwork all your problems, which is the beautiful thing about Family First Life. But at the same token, if you're not setting appointments, or you're not closing in the house, I think eventually you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, the person that you shave with, or whoever, is probably the person that you're accountable to. And meaning you've got to get your skill set up a little bit. I believe skill set is important in sales. I think it's important for you to learn how to, close versus sell. And I think that's where you see the top performers of the companies understand these things, and they get better. But none of you would be on this call right now on a Monday if you guys didn't want to get better. So, kudos to all of you that take the time to tap in and listen to this stuff, because it is important. And the thing I love about trainings, Steve, every single time, is we have our certain thought processes, mindsets that we are always thinking about. The thing I love about jumping on different trainings is we automatically start to think about things that we're generally not thinking about in business. And that's what makes Family First Life, the diversity and the training that we have. It really opens up your mind to really look at everything and go from there. As far as now that we talked about, acknowledging it, so acknowledging your goals, what you want out of this, tracking results, things like that. From my standpoint, if I was starting out now, because one of the things that I would recommend, I did this early too, I would implement a couple travel trips a month for wherever you're at. I would do a couple travel trips a month, because you could probably spending, I would say, 6 days in the field away from your current location. So three nights and back, or whatever, twice a month, will probably double your personal production overall for the entire month. So one of the things I would do if I was starting out is I would definitely find a spot where I could get abundance of leads, and I would go there twice a month, and I would double my production. And then I would run locally, and I would I would be doing probably at least 40 grand a month on my own pen, just to make sure I have enough cash flow, hit about 500 grand personally. Personally, I wouldn't do more than 500 grand because that requires more days in the field, in my opinion. And the reason I say that part, Steve, is I would be working, if I could start over, the thing that I would do completely differently is I would be hiring at a much more rapid pace. One of the things that will really increase your cash flow is getting more overhead. So if you want to eliminate white space out of your calendar, make you more productive, double up your leads, buy more leads. Most people are scared to do that, but double up your leads, take on new staff, take on an office, take on more overhead. And because right now, the biggest problem for most of you on this call is you give yourself choices. And what I mean by that is you give yourself the choice to kind of do this or not. If you bought all these leads, if you bought so many leads that you were nervous because you spent 2,500 in a week or $3,000 in a week or whatever, if you got yourself, let's say your budget's 500 and went to 1,000, whatever the number is relative to all of you on the call. But let's say you double up your lead budget and you do it week after week, all of a sudden you'd be nervous because you're spending money. You need to make the money. But now, instead of you saying, I'm going to dial, I'm not going to dial, I'm going to take this day off, I'm not going to take this day off, you give yourself no choice. And a lot of times, the thing that's interesting to me is I've always done a pretty decent job, Steve, even like coming out of college. My family owns the world's largest Dodge Chrysler dealership, and I did F&I there for like 8 years. And they would, want to send me on a free trip to the Super Bowl every year, or trips to Hawaii, all these trips for the manufacturers, for the car business, free trips, this and that. And I took a handful of them, but I generally didn't take that time off. The reason being is I understood at a young age, which I adapted this business. At the time, I was making like $350 a year. And I calculated, and I was like, it cost me about $8,000 in commission for me to take, a week off and go to the Super Bowl. So, I went to one or two, but like I missed most of the time out of 6 years. I think I went to 2 of them. So it's like, I already understood that. And I took that math and I took it in my dial days, even here, Steve. Like I remember I used to make dials on Saturday mornings, and no matter where I was, I would go. It could be at my mother-in-law's house, and my brother-in-law could say, hey, let's go do this on Saturday morning. Well, from 8 to noon, I had my dial time, and I'd be like, well, listen, at a bare minimum, as long as you pay me about, $7,500, $10,000 for my dial session for about 4 hours worth of work, then I'm totally fine going and doing whatever you want to do. But that's how serious you got to take your dial time and understand opportunity costs, because a lot of times with this freedom of being independent, being in business for yourself, just not by yourself, you have so many choices. And, as humans, most of us are wired to do what's easy. I mean, like I said at the beginning of the call, the habits that you follow are really often when you're not thinking will determine your choices when you are thinking. So usually you want to talk about seeing success. If you show me somebody's schedule, you show me somebody's habits and rituals, I'll tell you whether you're going to be successful or not. So early on, I'm going to produce, 40,000 or so a month, or whatever the number is, to pay my bills, pay staff, overhead, not have to worry about making money off of overrides or my agency yet. That's all cream. I'm going to fund my business enough, but I'm not going to I wouldn't do it to the extent of, I would want to be less in the field and more on the agency side, long story short, early. But I'm certainly not going to not be able to have a Zip account or spend money on social media marketing or have a staff member that I think is valuable. I'm not going to not hire them based off of not having cash flow. So that's extremely important as well. So and as far as as far as early, Steve, when you're hiring, it's amazing when you look at all of us on this call right now. Like, we've all made good and bad choices throughout our whole life. And, good choices it could be your partner, your spouse, whatever. It could be getting into this business. That's a very good choice. Be with Family First Life. Those are good choices. But a lot of times what you need to realize is your success continually evolves. What I mean by this is a lot of your success here is going to be whether you hire a good staff, and the one thing that was nice for me, I'll use Nicole as an example for us, is she's been with me for 10 years now. And she was someone, she'll be sending emails at 5 a.m. and then sending me emails late at night. And as I started to hire other staff, that was the mantra. So I didn't have to say, we expect you to do this and that. They already saw someone that was working for me doing, work early in the morning, late at night. And then it became a culture where I don't have to tell Anna and Michelle in my office or Emily to stay late to get work done, because if there's work to be done, they're going to stay late and do it. And I think when these are the things you need to have conversations with of whoever you're going to hire, to get that right culture in there, to have the right people. Because a lot of times, let's be honest, I feel very lucky where I feel like my staff truly cares about the results of our business. But a lot of times when we hire someone, it's literally, what can I take from the business? And you've got to remember, people really don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. So if it's a good environment and it's healthy and they feel like there's growth potential and you treat them right, they're going to just work harder and work longer for you. So those are some things that I would be thinking about early on, is how to scale up, how to take on more overhead, how to get there quicker. Because now, like I said, with the lead delivery, all the training, all the support, all the success, like it's so easy to hire and plug people in and get results now. So the other thing I would say is this, early on, like, I think it was maybe 2015 or 16, like I started to do a lot of like Facebook posts on different motivation and all these different things. I think one of the things I regret probably the most is I didn't continue down that road of putting myself out there enough. So for those of you that, are worried about what other people think, I think we're all built that way to a certain extent. I think it's great if you have the attribute of not caring at all. I definitely care about people that are close to me. I care about their opinions and things like that, obviously. But a lot of times you guys are making choices on not to do things on people's opinions that you don't even know them. Or you might have 3 haters on your whole network and they make a comment or two. You have 2 people that make comments on a post or something like that. And then you stop because 2 people you hardly know that are in your sphere of influence or whatnot say something. So just understand that, the more that you can put yourself out there on social media, people are watching, and people want more out of this. So try to put yourself out there more and more. I mean, Steve's a great example of this. Like I was telling him this morning, he's got his TikToks going and he's always putting himself out there. And I guarantee, Steve, I didn't look close enough or whatnot, but like, I guarantee from where you started, even with you being #1 producer and setting records and all this stuff, you've started to gain a little more following. Like, just doesn't happen overnight, but you've been consistent with it. And that's the key to this whole thing. So, I've said this a lot on many calls, but imagine social media, guys. Imagine this. Imagine today you put out a post on social media that says, hey, in 32 minutes, I made $542 and helped this family alleviate the burden on their, burial costs. And I can teach you how to make $542 in 32 minutes. If you want more information, contact me, here. There, and that's information. Then the next day you talk about, it doesn't even have to be you. Hey, Steve and our agency just rolled over $260,000, helped somebody's retirement out, gave him lifetime income. In the meantime, he got paid $10,542. That was 2 hours of work. For more information, go there. And so you're starting to story tell about real life stuff in there to create an audience. And then that starts to create a lot of interest, because at the end of the day, we've got these, generally for us bigger agencies, we've got, these marketing budgets and all these different things, but the best way to get traction in this business is your warm market. So that's your sphere of influence. So those are things I think about early on that I could have done a much better job on, and I still could do a much better job on. But I would approach it much differently. Little less time in the field. The money is easy, but it's a short game. You want to play the long game and own a business. So that's important.
Wow. Well, that's a lot of stuff there, and a lot of amazing stuff. The one thing you said that we talk a lot about is travel trips. Did you happen to see today what was the number one area for instant internet leads in the country?
I have not.
Hawaii, number
That's
one. There was
that's
like
pretty good.
500 and something instant internet leads. So who does not want to go to Hawaii right now and go write like 30 grand and then come back?
No doubt.
I
I'm,
do.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go right now. It's not. It's next door to me. So.
It's true. So, one of the things you're most well known for is, I think, simplicity, which helped me a lot early on. And then I'd say saying 80% of the business is the phones. And I think you're very much not confused with that and believe that wholeheartedly. I really wanted to break down first your process of dialing, like just to the simple roots. Like, how many times would you dial in a row before you got someone? What was that process for you?
Yeah, I would dial 4 times in a row. And before we started to do more texting, um, I still am a big believer in leaving voicemail. So especially if you're buying internet leads, you have to leave voicemail. You got to realize any lead that you're dialing, there's a high probability that either they've been called several times before, they filled out multiple forms. It could be online. Doesn't matter if it's instant internet lead. It doesn't matter if it's direct mail. It really doesn't matter if it's a social media lead. These people have probably been called several times. So the more that you can differentiate yourself with voicemail, text messages, door knocks, a lot of times too, Steve, people don't, they don't answer the phone. So if you're not door knocking, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. My first annuity I ever wrote was purely off a door knock with a no phone number on the lead, So you never know what can be on the other side of that. As far as other key tips on the phone, Steve, I would say, *67, blocking your number once, is a big deal. Usually they'll pick up an unknown number, oddly enough, but they won't pick up a known number, right? So doing *67 on maybe the fourth time, then leaving a message certainly can get you about three. Leaving messages for me and doing *67 got me about 3 more appointments each week. Also, the one thing that a lot of new people struggle with, Steve, is quick set appointments versus quality set. So a lot of times you need to understand you only get one chance for you to, set an appointment on the phone. So when someone says, you need to have your word tracks down, like with no problem. So when somebody says, hey, give me a call back, you don't fold like that. You say, hey, this is in regards to paying off your mortgage if you were to die. What time are you generally home from work? They're thinking you're asking that to call them back. You're really asking that to set an appointment with them. They say, oh, I get home at 5. You and your spouse get home at 5. We'll both get home at 6. Great. This is in regards to paying off your mortgage if you were to die. I'm going to put you down on Tuesday between about 6 and 6:30. Does that sound fair to you? It takes me about 10 or 15 minutes to get you this information. And you just set the appointment that way. So you've got to understand, and the word track can easily change. And I don't say things like, I don't use Mortgage Protection Center. I say things like, I'm getting back to you in regards to paying off your mortgage if you're die. I'm getting back to you in regards to online requests for life insurance quotes. I'm getting back to you in regards to alleviate the burden on your final expenses and burial costs. Like, I don't do benefit centers and different things. That's just me. If it works for you, do it that way. I'm fine with it. I don't use unnecessary word tracks. I'm very direct when I dial, my transitions are quick. Like, I haven't dialed a phone in probably 4 years now or something like that. But you can see just by role playing by myself, I could still set an appointment pretty easily. Like, it's second nature. So I think it's important to dominate the phone. You absolutely dominate the phone, get great at it, overcome it. I mean, it gets me excited thinking about making appointments right now, quite frankly. So yeah, the phone is 80% of the business, in-home is 15%, and product knowledge is 5%. And what happens is most new people spend 80% of their time on 5% of the business and then have that paralysis by analysis. And the one thing I'm really good at, Steve, is I'm really good at talking out of both sides of my mouth. And what I mean by this is, you do want to prepare, but prepare on non-income producing times. Prepare early in the morning and prepare the night before. Print out your leads, put your clothes out, make your lunch, bring it with you, prepare for a great day. And I think you'll have a great day. where most people don't do all the little things. Like everybody on this call has done this and know the feeling, right? Is literally, think about this, Stephanie. The mornings where you're like scrambling because of whatever, right? And you're like printing up your leads and you're trying to get out of the house and you're in a big hurry and you feel like overwhelmed by the whole scenario, compared to the nights where you actually print out your leads, get it all ready, get all the material that you generally bring with you ready. And then what does that day look like, just that alone? What does that do for your confidence and everything else? So those are areas I see that are simple little things, but everybody wants to know. You hear all the cliches that get 1% better a day. Well, are you doing those types of things? That's how you get that compounding effort, and it gets better and better every day. It's the little things that add up for wins. It's never a big overhaul. Everybody on this call could be a Hall of Fame producer or better if they just make small adjustments and tweaks to the business. So that's important.
Said a couple of interesting things there. You know, one of the things with the phone that I wanted you to touch upon was the transition, because I think we hear a lot in the early stages, you know, the script and the this and the that, but really it's about how you transition and when you get punched in the face, how you get to the quick set versus quality. So I'm very glad you touched on that. Now, being a top producer at the level you were, and you talked about door knocking. So let's say you didn't have a great day on the phone and booked, you know, 4 or 5. How did you map things out for yourself on the door knock front to get in front of people?
Yeah, I mean, I just brought usually 16 above type leads, final expense, internet, mortgage, whatever. And I would try to go to the houses where I think they'd be home, obviously. So I would route the map of door knocks the night before with this, and I would put it inside of the appointments I already had. So I'd have my route of it'd just be massive activity, you know, just massive activity the whole time. So I would bring that with me. And then if you're not gonna do that, Steve, at least at a bare minimum, bring your leads with you, right? At least at your bare minimum. So when you get a no-show, I think the other thing for most people on this call, I bet you when you guys get a no-show, most of you probably go to Starbucks or call a friend or hang out. And I'm telling you right now, top performers don't do that. And it depends on, like I said, it depends on what you want out of this business. But there's a big difference between, you know, just kind of doing it and trying to get as much as you can out of this, and really treating this like a business and being disciplined and having that type of schedule. So yeah, there's a million different apps right now you can use to route them, you know, route your schedule. But I think door knocking is a secret weapon. The only thing I can tell you is this: I've had people that were really bad on the phone in the beginning anyways, and they just wanted to door knock only. I'm not like, I would just say get your skill set up and get great on the phone again, because it saves you a tremendous amount of time. It can make you a lot more efficient. I think door knocking is something you want to do and should do, but it's not, I don't think that's your first move.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Now, just a little bit kind of wrapping up here on your in-home. I don't want to go through the whole thing, but you're obviously a master at finding problem and offering solution, and doing it in a very simplistic way. So for a new agent, you hire a new agent, they just dialed, they pounded the phone, and now they're going in the field. How do you communicate, you know, the art of your simplicity on the in-home?
Yeah, I think it's important for you to, you know, lead, guide, and direct in the house. I think people don't fill out these forms for no reason. And for the most part, I think people follow certainty. So they really would rather be in a nice way to say it, be told what to do versus, you know, giving options and information. Where people, that the biggest thing I could say is if we all sat down with all of you on this call right now, and if I sat down individually with each of you and said, give me your sales presentation, you might say, I don't know. I don't even know where to start, right? And the main components are you have to set the table on what's going to happen. I know, I think, did I hear this from you, Steve? I think I heard this from you. You even in your phone script, you start closing on the phone, I think is what you've done in the past, which is great.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would tell you about things like this is a great example, Steve. Like, if you're not doing something or you're not having great results, try that. Try what Steve's doing. A lot of times people stay in the same rut and they wonder why they're not doing as well. So, you got to set the table, set the expectations. I think that the things that I always focus on are, I think you need 5 things in every single sale. I mean, they're going to buy you, of course, that's important. So your image and how you portray yourself, the certainty level of confidence you show is going to either repel or attract people. I believe that they buy the company, so that's Family First Life, as well as the insurance companies we represent. So you have to have a story there. They also, people, you kind of touched on this, Steve, but people are not very good at identifying the problem and then offering the right solution and giving the right solution based off of their health and what they can qualify for. So your job is to identify the problem, and they might have filled out the form for debt reduction. But once you talk about income replacement, because 52% of life insurance is sold based off of income replacement, then you realize, oh, there's the hot button. Losing Mary is the hot button. So that you identify the problem, and then you give the right solution based off their health, and you tell them why that makes the most amount of sense for them. And then the last 2 things are, it has to make logical sense. So that's financial inventory, going over financial inventory. That's going to allow you to find money and second sale opportunities, which is the easiest type of sale. If Steve became a master at second sale opportunities, he'd sell 2.9 million a year.
Because I'm always getting better, man. I'm always trying to learn.
We all, yeah. So literally, you got to make logical sense, which is number 4. And then the 5th thing is you have to bring out the emotion. For most of us on this call, if I can walk out of a house, Steve, I don't know if you can too, but I can say, I missed it because they didn't like me here, or maybe they didn't like me, or I missed it because I didn't put confidence behind the company or the product or the solution, or dang, I didn't really identify the problem and give the right solution. Or I could say, it didn't make logical sense. There was not enough value to make the logical sense. Or I can walk out and say, there was no emotion made in that appointment. I made 0 emotion in that appointment. And the real secret of all those 5 is you get emotion out in your sale, and it creates urgency. If you don't get emotion out in the sale, they will shop. So that, I think, it's extremely important for you to understand and say, okay, how do I create urgency in this sale that's not tangible? You can't drive it, smell it, touch it, whatever. It's storytelling with emotion and putting themselves in that story. So a lot of times where people miss it is there's not enough empathy in your sale. You don't understand their circumstances enough because you didn't ask enough good questions. And you don't put them in that circumstances, then ask them challenging questions behind that. So those are the 5 things I always focus on. And also, like you said, just keeping it very simple, lead, guide, and direct. And, I'm big into trial closes all along the way. Can you see how this makes financial sense? Would you agree? So I'm, yes, I agree, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Does that make sense? Yes. I'm always getting yeses along the way. So when I say I just need your driver's license, they're like, grabbing their driver's license and then go grab your checkbook too. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm always trial closing, and that's a very effective tool for all of us as we get better. So
I love that. You broke it down perfectly. So leave us with one, Matt Smithism for new agents. If it like kind of, you've summed up a lot, but like kind of one thing you could leave them with, to have massive success here.
I think the biggest scenario is that I have been talking about mostly is if you can eliminate the white space on your calendar, it's going to create a massive amount of belief level for you, because you have all that action behind it, and then that's going to create all your momentum. So whatever you can do is how much more effective and efficient can I be on a daily basis, because you conquer those daily disciplines. And you can have a bad day or 2 days, but you should never have a bad week. I could argue, okay, you could have an off week, but you should never have an off month, right? I think the true thing about top performers like yourself, Steve, or Rob, Stephanie, all of you, is, you never get too high and you never get too low. Like a lot of times when people get a chargeback or a few chargebacks or a decline or something bad happens, it completely derails them and they crawl in a shell. We do a sales meeting here in a little bit in my office. And, I've saw different people at that middle level where they're having some success paying their bills, but they're not a top performer. And then something bad happens to that middle success and they don't know how to handle it. It's easy to handle deposits, right? That's the easy part about it. It's hard to handle, when you have a little bit of failure, but failures are just opportunities to grow. That's all they are. And you just got to take one step at a time and try to get better every single day. So, identify some of your bad habits that you have and just put a couple good ones in there. If you're trying to lose weight, maybe just eating a little bit less and doing some portion control could help, right? It's no different for our business. If you're trying to write more business, add on some more leads, increase your dial time. The other thing I tell you, here's a secret. This is a secret. Don't tell anybody. It's a secret. Here, do this week. Change this week. So when you set your appointments this week and you gain all your appointments this week, and you're like, oh, finally, I got my 15 appointments on Tuesday and Wednesday, and you're going to run your 30 this week. Let's say you got 15 on Tuesday and Wednesday from your Monday dials. I need you, once you hit because everybody that dials has the same feeling. I had it. I see it all the time. We set our appointment goal of 15, we'll say. And you're like, hit my goal, right? I just need you to dial for another hour and then stack a whole bunch more appointments on top of it. I just need you to dial one more hour from when you feel it in your gut that you did good enough. When you feel it in your gut that you did good enough, add one more dollar and you'll find or one more hour of dialing and you'll find yourself in the Hall of Fame.
Wow. Well, can't get any better than that. Well, I thank you so much. You've, done so much personally for me and, for the team, and anything you need from us, we'd be more than happy to help you. So just appreciate you so much.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Appreciate you being on.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
I mean, not a darn thing you can add to that, huh?
No.
Well, guys, thank you so much for being on the call today. Hope you took a lot of notes. Steve, great interview, man. Thanks for doing that. As always, let's hustle back half of the week. This is, we've got, Wednesday's the last day of the month. So let's push the business. We got a 5-week month in July. If you're struggling this month, July is a way to really have a show out performance, going to break records, going to do some cool things. Super fired up for all of your efforts. Thank you for working so hard, guys. Steve, again, thanks for the interview and leading the way every day, every week, every month. Happy selling, guys. Go out and protect American families. See you next Monday at 2:00 Central.